guys, I want to start this episode off by talking about one of our sponsors, which is Guerrilla Graphics Design Agency. These guys, I've known about them for a long time. They're actually a company that I'm very soon going to be officially working for, it sounds like. And yeah, I mean, they're really the shit. They really have worked with a lot of the people that have come through. Guerrilla Graphics is coming to, some form of alignment with them. They can provide you top tier effects and production value. They have everything you can ask for, including professional equipment and a stellar end product from top to bottom. Head over to GuerrillaGraphics.com for all of your design needs today. That's GuerrillaGraphics.com. Guys, you know them, you love them. Stutterbox Productions is the backbone for many of the events that you see in the Midwest, from EDM festivals to late night hip hop shows. This company has been working closely with the podcast since the beginning, and we always have plenty of things planned for the future. So, if you're looking to plan your next gig or event, head over to the Facebook page to learn more today. Guys, our final sponsor, Cranial Nerve Records. Are you a rock band or solo musician looking for representation and a way to secure shows? Well, our new sponsor, Cranial Nerve Records, can help. This organization has been fundamental in securing live shows for the podcast, and we couldn't be more grateful for them. Reach out to them for bookings via email at cranialnerverecords@gmail.com. Guys, this is the McAllister's podcast. I'm your host, as always, Cole McAllister. This is a super special episode. These motherfuckers have been gone away, exploring on a long, treacherous path, and I look forward to getting into it. Return of House of Leopold with Seth and JC.
Yay!
Hey, yeah. Applause. We'll edit in applause. No, we won't, yay. But we'll give you the.
Yes, we're back. We're back.
Hell excited to be back, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you guys let's just jump right into it. Mm-hmm. Well, you guys were gone in California for how many years? How long were you gone?
Almost exactly a year.
I was a year and a half almost. I went out there a little early to prep things for us. Okay. So describe it. I mean, obviously you guys are back. There's probably a reason for that. I'm kind of curious what was. I guess let me ask this first. Like when you first got there, like I saw on social media you guys were pretty positive about. Like, how did you feel about when you first got there?
So the reason that we went to California, the year before.
Oh shit! I'm so sorry. Can you turn that fan off? God damn. That happens 25% of the time when we do the podcast. Sorry, continue.
You're good. Yeah, no, you're fine. We the year before we moved, Seth had gotten a few opportunities out in California. Played some shows and festivals.
Met some really cool people.
And it seemed really promising. That there were new opportunities opening up, Yeah. And so.
And we had a friend out there that was opening up a warehouse in the fashion district of downtown LA, a couple blocks away from Skid Row. But it did work for a minute, and that was kind of the plan. And we wanted to see. We feel that the current paradigm that we're in is kind of like at a peak postmodernism, right? Like we're like in something right now that like not many people have a better hope about what's next. And so we wanted to kind of experience what like peak civilization in a peak city like LA would feel like. You know what I mean? Like the dream was there. The dream is there, or was talked about being there. But that kind of leads to the next part, why we left. It's not there.
Oh
my God, it's ugly.
It was not anything like what we imagined it would be. I guess what was represented to us, and if we hadn't gone, we would have questioned, what if we would have gone?
For sure.
And that would have been,
That's a fair point.
Yeah, no, there's no way that I would like take it back. Like I know that we were supposed to go. I wouldn't have made a different choice, but no, it was the most terrible time ever. It was horrific. Yeah. I did not like it at all.
It's definitely past peak, and the people there, like, everybody has a story, right? And, like, when you go to LA, you'd hope that people's story would be bigger or stronger or more fantastic than like
Oh, yeah.
normal life people, right? And like it's semi-true, but everybody was telling a doomsday story. And like everybody's predicting how much worse it's already gotten and how much worse it's going to get, and that's kind of like the main relevant topic. Nobody was growing. Nobody had like that kind of hope, if that makes sense. And everybody had talked like it already moved on. Anybody that was here for what you're looking for is now in Nashville, and that's like so commonly repeated with just like common knowledge.
Yeah, no, something else that we kind of learned and caught on to as we'd been there for a while, is that all of the like people who are from Los Angeles in the area, their parents listen to house music. So they grew up listening to like the older people drinking, listening to house music. So
That's
now,
the LA party.
Right. So now anything that like is like digital electronic, they're like, oh, turn it off. That's house music. You know, so like there's kind of like this like stuck opinion of stuck in the past and like unwilling to like, I don't know, move on past certain understandings of what is like
stuck
Hollywood level.
Well, they want the feeling that is like everybody believes there's a feeling about LA and like how it feels, and then when people go to the party, they're part of that, but they don't see themselves as part of that. They are looking for it.
Right.
If that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like when you go to a party, a lot of us, we're kind of more self-conscious about ourselves, and we're like worried what we look like and what our friends appear. There it's more like they're like looking for what they know LA should be. And so they want it to sound like it, they want it to taste like it, they want it to feel like it. It's cocaine, alcohol, and house music. That's what their parents partied on. That's how LA's felt like the last 50 years. It has to be good. And like that, the better the party is, the more it feels like that. And there's a couple of like groups, couple crews out there doing really cool shit, and cool shit by my terms. You know, like there's like B-side, there is Bass Waffles, and like those are crews that are like doing more experimental stuff. But for the most part, every single house party, every single after party, every single warehouse I went to, all house music, all techno, all the time, all cocaine. It was nutty. And those were just the after parties. I mean, like you have to afford to live there.
Yeah.
That's
You have to be carefree enough to like go out and spend, you know, that amount, $17 on parking.
And that's kind of what I really learned was like there's like normal people who are like living life and having to afford it, right? And like our rent was $3,000 a month, electricity was $1,500 to $1,800 a month, water was $500 to $800 a month.
Jesus Christ.
Right. And that's just your like bare minimum. Gas is $6.50 in the valley. And that was like minimum.
Yeah, we had to live over an hour away from where we worked because we couldn't afford rent closer to anywhere that, you know, nice people live. Yeah.
And we live next to the nice people. We live in Canoga Park. Calabasas is where like a lot of celebrities live. Canoga Park is where all the people live that serve the celebrities. So it's a lot of like Hispanic working class that like mows, vacuums, like does all the housework stuff. Like that's who we lived among. Like the people were nice. It was just the collective was ugly. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it was very non-optimistic.
And there was no bottom.
Yeah, that's what I've heard is that like LA is just miserable. Like everybody there is just
the homeless at like pandemic level. Like,
I'm sure.
Like Skid Row's bad, and like I have stories and saw things that will forever like change my view of like not just individuals but like humanity. Like it really did some big things to my heart. Like seeing some of that, but like if you go anywhere in that city, top to bottom, any street, there is encampments of people. There's millions of people living on the streets. I've traveled the world. I've been to 63 countries. I've been to 48 states. I have never seen anything like what I've witnessed, what I felt in LA in the last year and a half.
Wow.
It is the worst humanity thing I've ever seen. It is terrible. And there's no bottom, there's no safety nets, nobody's helping each other. It's only getting worse. And things like fentanyl are just, you can tell, like I was driving Uber at nights to make enough money to try to afford to live there. You can tell which pockets of which community would be delivered fentanyl on which times. There'd be like people breaking glass or ripping down trees out of the middle of the road or screaming at the sky. Like you could tell which parts were manic on which nights. It was super obvious. And it was all the time. I mean, we'd be driving to the Hollywood Boulevard and there'd be a 60-year-old Hispanic lady, like nothing very wrong, but like she's homeless, so now she's pooping on the side of the street right there in front of everybody. And the kids are like, whoa, you know, or we're walking down Hollywood Boulevard and two guys have a bong and like weed's cool, and that's everywhere, you can't stop it, but they're hitting heroin. So my kids are asking like, why doesn't that smell like everybody else's weed?
Yeah,
my 10-year-old kid, you know what I mean?
Like, there was one time Aldo, Luna, and I got stranded in a subway like a Subway sandwich place, because there was a crazy naked guy running around the Target parking lot and nobody would go outside. So yeah, no, those
Cops are like an hour and a half.
Oh, that's
safety.
response time?
Yeah, there's no safety. Everybody knows that.
That's fucking Detroit level, man. That's bad.
And like I worked retail for a while there the last few months, and like they don't even try to stop people. Like when I lock a store here in retail, you have like ADT, you put the locks on, you shut the drawers, you take cash out. It's the opposite. Leave the drawers open so that when they come in, they just take the cash. They don't break the registers, hopefully. Leave the doors unlocked because they're going to cut it anyways. There's no ADT because the response time's over an hour and a half. And it's oh my God. And they just rely on insurance. And hopefully nobody's in there. Whoa. It's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother surrealism. And like you'd think you'd make more money being around people spending money like that, but it's like things
they milk you for all you're worth.
Things like conspiracies here are like common knowledge there. Like the Russians bought up all the property in LA. Everything that was rented in the last 3 years was bought by some like Russian influence, and now their prices are being jacked up. You can't even live in the place; they'll change the prices on you. And like this is a common knowledge in LA. Like people just like talk about this like it's happening. A lot of people are living with mom and dad, and that's how they can afford to live there. Or the other way is like they have sugar daddies, or mom and dad are paying for them. A lot of sugar daddies, but like that's how LA is currently functioning. Is outside money paying for the people's experience who are there. LA is not paying for itself.
Wow.
No way.
So obviously none of us are scientists or experts. I mean, you were a teacher for a while, so you probably might be the most qualified. Although we can compete. We'll compete. No. Why do you think it is like it is in LA? Like, what would be your guesstimation?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, for which part of it? I mean, like
I guess like why
it's the lack of definition. It's the lack of hope. It's the lack of kindness. The lack of like being able to define like humanistic.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people go to California to live like a glamorous life.
Dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even if that's such a small amount of people. Like, what does that really mean? You know what I mean? Like, and who's there's very few parties. Like my bosses at Radical Neon got to go to like red carpet events and like set stuff up and like do things like that. Like you were like, I don't know, like around celebrities, but like they aren't gonna invite people to like their parties and stuff, So like, I mean, I understand that people go there to like make something of themselves and like that's like an idea, but like I think it's really like a city of broken dreams and like people settling for like other jobs that they like have to support themselves while it's also not working out for them,
Lack of definition. Like, because there's nothing else to do, this is what I thought the dream was. Now I'm kind of like stuck in it. And like you'd have to have humility to admit that there's nothing else. You know what I mean? Like it's like a loss of yourself.
Yeah.
And like I said, like people are showing up to these things like expecting them to be like what we thought prom was. You know what I mean? Like somebody put a lot of work into prom. Our parents made it very special for us. Like real life will never be like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like even when you go to LA, it'll never feel that way. And when everybody shows up looking for that, like then nobody's there to like be what a party is. You know what I mean? Like the cool kids in LA partying are because they're like sweaty and like jumping and it's crazy and like that's not happening. Like everybody's looking to like I don't know how the portrayal of that is wrong.
So I think that it kind of ties into the like the weather is always nice there. And that was like a great perk. Like number one, it was legit like the only thing that I enjoyed about being there. But I think that, the fact that they're never, this is just speculation, but the fact that like a lot of people are never forced to stay inside and like, like Midwesterners are when it's snowing, like I feel like a lot of us really hone our skills and are more comfortable with ourselves because of the time that we like spend inside and spend like stuck inside isolated. And I feel like I feel like that's part of why the Midwest makes good bass music is because we got a whole bunch of weirdos that are in their basements making wub wub sounds.
Yeah, true.
And I feel like
and we're not stuck on nostalgia.
When you go there, everybody's everybody's there to be part of something successful. They're not there to be successful themselves. Nobody's like putting in the work to be like, if I'm going to be a movie star, I'm going to like do all of these classes and I'm going to do this or blah, 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 or I'm going to throw shows or I'm going to, you know, do that. You know, nobody's moving forward on those kinds of things. They're all looking for investors or like only looking to like be a part of something if there's some sort of profit for them. And it's not about your friends. It's not about, you know, it's not about what you want to do. It's just like hoping that you are part of the next big thing. And like, that's it. You know, nobody's really like, I don't know, standing up for what they like or like, developing skills like that.
And there's a lot of people, I felt LA was really lost to the chemical. The chemicals in LA were a whole nother level. I've been the most sober I've ever been in my life. The last year and a half, I've witnessed like, I'd say like 7, 8 fentanyl overdoses.
Oh, wow.
Saved 2 people myself. Like,
geesh.
Yeah, it was rampant. And then even like the good ones or the happier ones, like it's people, I don't know. It was, the toxicity was way higher. Everything was way more lucid. There was no adherence to any like morality. You know what I mean? Things crumbled away that there was no comfort.
Yeah, honestly, the drugs even tasted different because they were, you know, either cut with something else or more pure or just like every single drug was a different experience because, you know.
Yeah, it was nothing like the Midwest. Name one and it felt different. The only thing that was close was the cocaine, but that was just because it was so rampant.
Damn. So you think that's just from like multiple different people like lacing shit
here,
purely, or like why the drugs were different in LA?
By the time, well, I treat it like seafood, right? So seafood there is really fresh. I'm getting it. I'm eating it. It's probably frozen one time, maybe. By the time it's come here, it's been in and out of like 16 freezers and 4 different trucks. It's been retailed, sold off, 3 different pricing. Like by the time I eat a fish, there's no way that it could be fresh. I'm in the middle of a continent, 1,800 miles away from an ocean. It's the same thing with drugs. All of our drugs are coming from overseas. Hardly any of them, except for like PCP and marijuana, are coming from the United States. Everything else is overseas. Everything else is coming from China, Russia, Ukraine. That's everything. And like the major port cities are the ones pulling that in, from what I was told. And so it's coming straight there and being dumped in. And I was explaining that everything's being cut with fentanyl. Like everybody wants that like lofty feeling. And so for a while, fentanyl was cheap and they cut it with it. Then everybody realized that's what they were doing. So now they actually charge more to have it cut properly.
Right, yeah. When there was a heroin shortage, I'm pretty sure that a lot of dealers used fentanyl instead or cut things.
And then
with fentanyl
people got
instead.
addicted to the higher level of toxicity, and then they figured out what was happening. And when the heroin prices dropped and the fentanyl started being, they were like, "No, this doesn't feel the same anymore. This is weak." And they're like, "Well, actually, we were using fentanyl." And then they're like, "Okay, we want fentanyl." So
Right.
the streets aren't full of heroin addicts. Skid Row is not heroin addicts anymore. It's all fentanyl addicts.
Right.
Everybody in there's doing fentanyl.
Yeah,
It's a
and it's
whole
scary
different
because
vibe.
here you hear like, you know, 1 speck will kill you, and it's like, yeah, it really will, but like there it's like people are like, how many specks can I get?
And it's a designer drug.
Yeah.
Beautiful people are dying of fentanyl.
Yeah.
Beautiful, smart, creative, well-connected people are dying of fentanyl. It's unreal. It's everywhere. Like I said, I have never been as sober as I've been the last year and a quarter of my life. I had a couple moments where it's like, nope.
I don't know. I will also say that I saw a ton of people very irresponsibly doing ketamine and became irresponsible, unreliable friends because
100%.
of it. Yeah, no, just like...
That's a plague of our generation.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I don't know. It just seems like, especially if you're there, you could be doing more with your life than, you know, sitting on a couch, you know, not doing anything.
Sure. Let me ask you this, like, because some people speculate like why LA might be the way it is because of like the political leaning. Do you have any thoughts about that? If that's
No.
a factor, you don't think so?
All politics are reactionary.
Okay.
Nobody could steer the ship that is LA. I don't believe any humans should live in that way, period. And I don't think there's any way to write enough rules to structure that way to work. It's a post-apocalyptic. Like it's past the point where it could have been guided into something more. They're so limited on their ability to expand. Everything has to go up. So like normal got so big there.
Yeah, well,
I don't think
okay,
there's any way
so
to govern.
I feel called to say that, so like there was a water shortage, you know, for most of the time that we were there. and like people weren't allowed to water their lawns, and it was like a big deal that like landscaping was dying.
You'd be
People
at, like,
just laid out grass and like they couldn't water it or whatever. And like there were so many celebrities that like got fined because every single day they would just turn on their water and just water like
or any money making
everything.
business. All the banks have green grass, but then you go everywhere else and nobody else even have grass.
Right. I think everybody's just gonna it's just like a place for rich people to live, and you know, like a lot of the issues that the city has, the celebrities, the rich people don't care about. Like they're like
homeless
no, get rid
people
of
can't
them.
get through the 4 gates,
Right.
and if they do, they have buses that come around once a week and take everybody out. Like there's no LA is a play-to-play place like Vegas is.
Oh,
but
Facebook.
without the happiness. Yeah, like there's no hope, no happiness. But like if you have money, maybe. Like everybody else is just a trickle down of that, and it really matters how much you can afford or what credit rating your parents were able to give you, that kind of stuff. Like tell the truth. When we first got there, to get a place, we had to like help find bank documents for companies that don't exist that we technically didn't own. They needed all this crazy stuff. They needed credit scores that there's no way I could have ever have held. Like we had to bluff and like really make our way in, and it was crazy, and it was everywhere you went, and it was like, how is everybody here doing this? Like, how is anybody doing this? Like, what is happening? It was really mind-boggling trying to get a place.
I really have no idea how anybody there, you know, can. I don't know. I feel like a talented person, you know, and that's part of my experience there was that, you know, we went out there mostly for success opportunities. And so like I felt out, you know, my side of things, like where am I going to work in LA? And so I did have, I made it to the final round of interviewing with Adobe. I made it to the top 25 right when we got there, which was really cool. But you know, top 25 isn't a job, you know, so,
yeah, sure.
You know, I interviewed at a few different places, and the one that I ended up, you know, working out the best was Radical Neon, and they didn't even pay, you know, above the poverty line in the city. Damn. So it's like
we had to sit down with them and have she had a conversation being like, you realize I have 2 kids and a husband, and like I
have to drive an hour to get here every day.
We fully qualify for food, everything, all the assistant programs. Like this is really at poverty level.
Yeah,
and he's like, this is what other people would hire at. And it was like, whoa, okay. It's quite a response.
They were like, you know, most people, don't you have any passive income, or like, you know, don't you have any, you know, anything else that you can do? And it's like, I work here for almost 50 hours a week. Like, what else do you think I'm doing? Like, no, I don't. So yeah, no, it's crazy how you kind of just like get held under, or like there is like this line that like nobody's just like willing to help you like reach over.
Yeah.
A lot of it's generational wealth too. I mean, when he accidentally sold a bank account, he had $1 million sitting in his sideways PayPal account. You know what I mean? It's like we're not like our parents were not the same parents. You know what I mean? Like you come from a different line of wealth than we could understand in that sense, and that's happening a lot. It kind of concentrated in major cities, from what I understand.
Right. I was seen as a worker there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. I just felt like I was worth more than that, you know? So, yeah, no, I feel like my skills are better used elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm really glad that you guys are back here in a better place.
Yeah.
Definitely a way better place.
I love where we're at now.
Yeah. Adjusted the perspective that we needed, you know, on a whole bunch of things. You know,
sure.
I feel ready to like be here and be satisfied with what I've got, you know, and what I'm capable of, and I have to prove that I can do something bigger or better. And if anything, I feel kind of guilty that I thought that I could find something better. So I'm glad that the opportunity to come back was open.
Yeah.
You know, and that like
that's why a lot of people are there, because
right.
it is very expensive to get out of.
Yeah, I'm grateful that we could come back, and that, you know, it's still a good place for us, and that everybody still loves us, and it's good. It's great.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So let me ask you this. You guys having done the Cali, one more question about Cali. You guys having done the Cali stint, would you recommend it to anyone, or are you telling everybody get the GTFO?
No.
Yep.
No, don't go.
Everybody that I talk to that is there wants out.
No, don't do it.
Even people who have lived there the whole life are like, California, especially LA area, has really radically changed over the last couple of years in a negative, truly negative, harmful soul experience way. I would say if you want to go other places, I mean, like Seattle, Nashville, what are some friends at? There's other places. Honestly, just make it where you're at home. That's what like we've learned is like if you want something, it's because you're being called to do it, and like we put so many cool ideas on the back burner because they seem so cool to us, but they could be like they're like an idea that's like it should happen. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like where we're at is now. Is like the reason it's in there is because it's like it's time to do it. You know, like we can't put that behind us any longer. Like if we want to live the life that we're dreaming of, it's literally those pieces that you have to do. If that makes sense. It kind of like the LA really put it like out in front of us in that way, and so that's part of what we're like hoping to do next is to like stop worrying about like grabbing onto a larger picture or finding any kind of slipstream into like any main or artery or you know what I mean, like any kind of line of that, and like really just focus on like what it is we're experiencing right in front of us and who we're experiencing it with.
Yeah, we don't need to validate our experience or our scene or our community to anybody or like compare it to anything. Like this is where we're from. Like I'm ready to represent 515. And like be here and love it and like be grateful to be here instead of like thinking that like, well, maybe if we were somewhere bigger, like
and places bigger
those
are
feelings
all looking for what we have. But what you have to do first, like what it is like they're looking and we should keep it here, but they're looking for the synergy, they're looking for the energy of somebody else doing, and then they pull that in. It doesn't curate there. Right? But I'm not saying that we should even like worry about that. Like we should create synergy here. We should worry about what we're doing here. Like when I think of this, I think of like hip hop, right? And like think of like Dr. Dre and that whole crew. Like what they did was in their basements, and it was so cool that it was nationally recognized. Everybody else was like caught up to what they're doing.
You have to stop searching for it and do it.
Yeah.
And it's that doing. Like if history has it, that's what happens. But regardless, it's your soul that's coming out. You know what I mean? It's your true expression. It's self-discipline meets self-reflection. You know what I mean? There's like a point of doing that like truly can be curated through that.
You don't have unlimited time. So, like the things that you do have to be, things that you really want to do or like spend time on.
And not
like,
building up to do.
Right.
You should just do. That's why the idea's in your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the fact is, the Midwest, like the population here is growing. More people are flocking here. So, it naturally makes sense to, have an art scene follow that.
In our lifetimes, I think it's going to heavily increase. I think.
Yes,
I mean,
I
in other
agree.
countries already is like Europe and stuff. I know they're connected to a larger scale of the world, but I think in our lifetime, like we're just from LA, which has a large Hispanic population and stuff. Like people know how special it is here, and like I think once it starts really slipping out, that it's gonna change what people want as far as where they're living in our continent. I have no doubt in that. Even things like,
corn on the cob.
Yeah, or we walk into a gas station here and like we have entire like shelves full of different kinds of Mountain Dews, and they have Kickstarts and everything else, like all these they're beautifully lit. When you get mass populations like LA, they can't distribute that many micro kinds. So it might just be Mountain Dews, or it might be Mountain Dews and a Diet Mountain Dew, but there's no Kickstarts. There's no Cherry Pepsi. Nobody knows what Mellow Yellow is. There's no Sprite. Like all variety disappears. You think it's the opposite. That's like what we're like preach is like there's more in a big city like that. There's far less of any kind of choice you'd ever have. From like the Uber you can afford to take, to the pops you get to drink, to the food you get to like show up to. Like, yes, there's more of everything because there's more people, but your choices are far more limited.
Yeah,
it was an adverse choice thing that you had to like get used to in that way.
Yeah, most of it was off limits. Yeah,
or not available. And like nobody had ever tried. Like one thing I talked to my coworkers about was like nobody ever had breakfast pizza. Never even heard of it. It's because no gas stations serve food. That would be disgusting in LA. That'd be so nasty to go to a gas station and grab food out of it. No way would anybody ever do that. So none of that exists. Bathrooms, like I can pee literally anywhere now. I can step out of my car and pee because that's what you have to do in all of LA and all of the valley. Nobody has a bathroom.
No public bathrooms anywhere.
Anywhere.
No, it's terrible.
You bring your own pee cup with you.
I knew the key code for a bathroom in a parking garage at a mall that we parked at one time. And like if we ever had to pee within like 45 minutes of that's where you would go, was to the parking garage. Yeah.
Oh my
but otherwise,
God.
yeah, no, it didn't matter if your kid was standing there peeing their pants. They're like, no, this is for employees only.
And the entire city smells like pee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it smells terrible.
Because everybody's peeing outside, and there's no water, no rain ever to wash it away. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It smells ammonia-based pee literally everywhere you walk. Even the nice parks and stuff, you can smell it.
Mm-hmm.
So you think LA is done, or you think it'll come back?
No.
I think they're holding on to an old dream, you know, that like Hollywood is like an idea of like what it used to be, not what it currently is.
Except for there could be so like what punk did or rock and roll did, you know what I mean? Where there's like a new surge of like understanding of energy.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking New York, because New York in the 70s was very
rough.
like.
And that's what I was going to say. LA is a face of something. And if that face inwardly changes, it would outwardly change. But if that face continues to be derived from the outward reflection of itself, I think it will only get uglier. It's nobody there's gonna make it better. You know what I mean? Like, it would have to be somebody doing something new that LA would redefine itself by, and that I don't believe that would come from LA. I don't even think LA believes it would come from LA anymore. When you meet anybody inside of music, they all say Nashville. Like, if you want music, go to Nashville right now. Anybody I met, every manager I met, every AR rep I talked to, all said Nashville.
Well, there's always been so much feeling in country music, you know? I feel like that's just, you know, Nashville is where people who, like, enjoy music are, you know? I feel like if you're going to California, you're, like, attempting to, like, do something, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how much, like, hip-hop is centered in Nashville, too. Or in Tennessee. Yeah.
Well, LA hip-hop is out. I mean, like, I was told multiple times, I would say 80% of the times I DJ'd, not to play anything hip-hop.
Damn.
Like an open
Kanye
warning.
kill it?
Well, and they'd even say stuff like, "I just don't like the ignorant lyrics. I don't want anything ignorant or adverse to my crowd," and things like that. And it's like, do you understand what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no.
PC, I guess, trying to, you know, please everybody.
And stay away from that energy was another thing that was often said. And it's like, what? Mm-hmm. Especially thinking like LA, I think of like prime time, like that's like where like hip hop like really like took a center stage in my mind, you know what I mean? But the city does not feel that way. And we tried in the time we were there, we tried lots of different places, lots of different crews. I continuously like made efforts in like different directions to see if there's ever.
But Seth did do the Daft Punk thing, which
that
was cool.
was super cool.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah, talk about that. How'd you get into that shit?
So there was this place.
Cool.
There's this place called Wisdome that is like 7 dome structures that have like professional grade projection on the inside, and they're open to party. And it's owned by some like Burning Man hippies that have too much money and property downtown
during the rest
LA.
of the year, they just have it set up, and then
they do parties and experiences. There's lots of there's things in it every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But so these guys I met at this place one time, and we ended up hitting it off. And then they have a whole bunch of projects. They're linked to burners. They're doing so like one of the projects, the head maze that's going to the Navy Pier in Chicago. It's this giant head sculpture. It has 7 different rooms you can go into, and each one is a different feeling or mental like constraint we put ourselves in, a different part of our ego. And you can live inside of these, and they're meant to try to break you out of that part of your like egoic understanding, right? And like these are the people that curated this, got the idea, paid all the money for the metal to be built. Like this was their side project. Their like dream project was to do this Daft Punk experience. And so it's a tribute to Daft Punk. It's because Daft Punk is former at this point. So it's that puts them in the gray area of being able to use all their music and stuff. But then what they did was they told a story, and it was about Daft Punk. It's like Star Wars, right? But more on a meta level. Our reality is being taken over by Mother Culture and is being shifted into alignment for their purposes, right? Whether it be military or consumerism or
I thought it was like Rush
lack of spirituality, kind of.
Yeah.
And then Daft Punk is the underground scene, and they're preaching self-awareness, self-fulfillment, like pain through happiness, you know what I mean? Like the real shit. And so it's just like evolving thing. And then they use the music of Daft Punk. So it starts off in 2 rooms. Mother Culture shuts down the after party. Everybody gets pushed in the main room lights up, and it tells the story, starts where Daft Punk dies. And that's where they became gods to humanity. And their understanding then becomes projected into like a godly form. And they show us how we can find ourselves and become one with each other. And through the sense of understanding of each other, we can like find that sense of oneness. And that would elevate us into like the next level and outside of Mother Culture's reach. So really projecting some heady stuff. And like the story is so beautifully told. We only did it 2 times. And it's still being like pulled forth. The second time, the story and the visuals and everything made it much more apparent. If somebody tells you as it's happening, it's even more magical, and it needs to get that level out loud, and that's what they're building. The goal is in like a year, we do it like 6-7 more times. We have like weekend showings, and then we start touring it. We want to put it in places like Area 15. We're having conversation. They had conversations with all, I think, like music festivals in different parts of the country and stuff like that. And they want to tour this thing and have it part of like the music scene, and like really use it as a like. One of the directors is from Broadway, so he wants to like really take that meaning and put it into like the EDM side of things. So it's like a meshing of all these brains, and they pulled people from all over the world. Like one of the laser guys is like Excision's laser dude, and like the lasers perfectly match the visuals that are shooting off that are 360, and the ship has all these LED tubes that go up to it, so it looks like it's blasting off or coming down or shifting through the space. It's very, very trippy. It's a cool experience. 360 sound.
Hell yeah.
It was really cool.
It evolves every time we do it. The first time I actually did it, I had never done a full run through. Because we were having, it was everything they have is like the top tier adult toy, right? And so it all works individually and like in theory works, but you know how technology is. Like when you push technology that far, like, and then you start trying to link them together, like nothing works, and you're just like, is it this box? As you're like replugging it in, you know what I mean? Like it was like that up until the day of. And then the day of, everything just flawlessly worked through the entire show. But I'd never seen the show front to back, so I'm like on the stage partying with everybody. I'm like 30 feet in the air, 25 feet in the air, all these lights, lasers shooting at me and everything. I have microphones in my ear so I can hear the director as he's yelling cues, because I don't know the script. I've never done a run through. So he's like, stand still, arms straight out, don't move. And as the lasers like scan my body. And it's like, oh my goodness. And like, so yeah, we were just reacting and dancing, but it was magical seeing through all these little dots on my screen, trying to watch the visuals, trying to watch people. It was probably one of the coolest life experiences I've ever had.
He and his partner had to wear the light up helmets or whatever. Yeah, and so it was really hard, if not impossible, to see through the helmet. So like it was mostly like what he remembered to do, or like could like see out of the bottom of his helmet.
They had those it has little dots, and normally you can see out of those because you can adjust your vision. Your vision kind of takes out the blank space, right? But then you add the LED lights to it, and they're moving. Your vision's just like, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not even gonna try. It's just white, yellow, red. So yeah, having to DJ through that was.
Yeah. So how did that tell a story? Like, were you just like, was it just a combination of different songs and like doing these actions
and the lyrics, and then there'd be like 15-minute intervals where we would do like French Indo house, and it'd be the 1992, and we get the energy rising, and a lot of them would be about like individualism or finding self through like self-expression and things like that. And then it would break into like a 5-10 minute movie segment where we would drop down, change costumes, the ship would land, the gods would meet somebody else, and they'd have another conversation, and they would shift the conversation forward. And so my job was, in between the movie scenes, we would have dance parties. And the dance parties would follow a flow that the lasers, the lights, everything was moving to. The fog would go up. There's one segment in the middle where we had 7 live musicians. They had a piano, a trumpet player, 2 or 3 singers, a guitarist, a bass player, and fog came up with shining lights, and they appear and they start singing as we're DJing.
Oh wow!
Everybody's swaying. Yeah, like people are
really
legit
magical.
People are crying. Mm-hmm. People have tears in their eyes. It's like such a moment that it's like happening and stuff, and it's overwhelming. The story, even if it's still semi like obtuse at times, the story is so obviously about being like better,
and uplifting.
Yeah, that it is soul wrenching, up moving. And then the last half hour is a party where we get to like just dance and have good time to music and stuff. And by that time, people are. It feels like, I don't know if you ever went to like a church camp, but like the last day of church camp where everybody's like, I can't believe I have to go back to the real world. We're gonna celebrate in the happiest way possible. You know what I mean? It was like that.
I just partied with Daft Punk.
Yeah, it's like that where everybody's like cheesing with their own cameras. Finally, stop taking pictures of the thing, and it gets way like like family feeling. It was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Damn.
sat in the VIP section with the kids for like 2 hours long?
Well, and I didn't know the show
we
time, so I
partied
brought
hard.
them early.
It was awesome. But yeah, no, it was definitely like, it was kid appropriate, but like it got them hyped up and definitely passed out through the show. But no, it was really
Hell
awesome.
yeah.
memorable.
Hell yeah.
It was very cool.
Daft Punk was the shit.
Yeah.
I remember.
That fucking is the shit. Yeah.
I remember like going to camp and like they like our counselor like showed us Daft Punk and like I would watch videos of like the live show and how like they fucking did with the pyramid and all that shit and like how they fucking mixed and mashed songs together in like this unique fucking way, like how they ended that album with like 5 or 6 different songs all like meshed together in a uniform type of shit. Was crazy, bro.
Yeah, my first summer on my own was spent like listening to Daft Punk and like especially like, you know, like it reminds me of being like a young teenager adult and just being like, I can do this, you know. That's what Daft Punk feels like to me.
I definitely dove in once I took on the project, like the second showing, and I had a lot of extra time, and I was like, we'd build something and wait for a couple hours and just chill. So I like dove into who they were. I watched old videos of them to like try to copy their mannerisms and stuff like that. That they had a very long career and they went through multiple different genres, and that's something I really appreciate about the show is that like it felt like you went through their 40 years. They did a beautiful job of like encompassing that. I don't even think Daft Punk meant to send this kind of message, but they like extract it from it, and it's. Yeah, I'm excited. I truly believe in the next couple of years I can get it to come to Iowa, and I'm truly excited to do it somewhere here, like in the dome at the Science Center or something like that, where we could all experience it together. Mm-hmm. That'd be an awesome thing.
Yeah, because you can't see their faces, so you know, like it's like you really are with Daft Punk. You know, especially for the people who don't know, you know, who it is. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really effective. It was an effective like show and message and
we're doing it again in March.
And
sounds like
yeah,
they just pushed back a date to mid-March.
Cool.
So if anybody wants to go,
hell yeah, that's crazy.
Let me know. I'll hook you up with tickets at least at a discount.
Hell yeah.
McAllister Hours discount.
You gotta test my name too.
Yeah, you gotta attach his name. You gotta tell me you watch this.
We're gonna have to cut this out and I haven't talked to my lawyer before we. No, I'm kidding. Seth, I have to ask you. There was a little bit ago where we were talking about libertarianism.
Yes.
And you said something that hurt my feelings.
What's that?
Not really. I remember you said something like how you just like could not stand libertarianism.
I'm the opposite direction that I would take politics in my current understanding.
What was that? Sorry.
It's the opposite direction that I would take politics to my current understanding.
Okay. What do you mean?
So, okay, the best way I've come to understand this is alpha politics are red versus blue, right?
Yeah.
Beta politics are, what's the word? With the A. If you write A, what's it called?
Alpha?
No.
Or
paint A with a circle around it.
Anarchy.
Anarchy.
Oh, yeah.
Anarchy all the way to, what was the group?
Socialism?
Nope.
Nope.
Sorry, I haven't had this conversation in a long time. But that's beta. C is literally it's a form of attention control and non-identification. So I believe if you participate, you're part of the problem. That's what I've felt from my personal experience, and I can't escape no matter what I do, or how I bring my intention to the table or my attention. I think when you stop paying attention to something and giving it your interest or your attention and intention, it starts to decade in its ability to control your perspective of the narrative. And as we did, let's say we all stopped watching and stopped paying attention and let's say we only talked about dogs and cats for the next year and a half of our life. We couldn't make no news source, no celebrity could make us talk about anything else but dogs and cats. We get to choose the dogs and cats we even talk about. When we turn back and we watch Fox News, their narrative concept would be so obscene to us that it would be obvious what was wrong, right? And I think politics are the same way, that it's so intermingled into our reality that all we are doing now is nitpicking things that won't ever fix the knitting of the threads. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how many times you pull off the hair, you're still like wearing out the blanket. So I think The lack of participation would be a first step, not even participation, active participation in non-participation, conscious awareness of like turning away. And then looking at it again at a set time, I think you'd see all the shit and it would become obvious what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's interesting though, because that's almost kind of like an anarchist perspective in a way.
But you have to care in a way that anarchy I haven't seen prescribed to. And like I actually met this really cool guy. He had a little collective called Love Unity. He threw parties and stuff. And
I think I've had him on the podcast.
Have you? Okay.
He's like this weird. Is he like a kid, like a younger guy?
No, he's an older dude. I'd say 28, 29.
Okay,
he's from LA.
Oh, from LA.
Yeah,
okay,
from LA. Yep.
It's probably a guy that stole his name. Though,
I would have doubt it. But he believed in total anarchy. He believed in total individual freedom. I forgot where I was going with this. What was it in comparison to? I'm sorry.
We're talking. I have the libertarian.
Talk. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think anarchy is the way because the individual gets lost to the community, and if you don't have any sense of community awareness, it like. Not making a choice or not understanding your choice are two separate things, but both lack your choice. And so when you believe in total anarchy, it's not that groups aren't going to form. It's not that communities won't happen. It's not that social governances won't exist. They would just exist at the lower denomination that is most easily rectifies the problem. So if it's a block that's having a problem, some strongman will come and promise everybody that if they pay him $50, he'll protect the block. That's just like we've seen that through our like societal evolution. It would just reset. And so I don't think that anarchism in any form would be an evolution. I think it would be literally just resetting it so the strong and dumb would have a better chance again, which against having the people with all the money have everything. I don't know, but like I read Children of the Corn, or not Children of the Corn, Lord of the Flies.
Oh yeah.
And that really demonstrates like the two paradigms that anarchy like leaves us in. Those are children that they were on a flight to their private school, the airplane crashed on a private island. There's a group that everybody like relates to that has like Porky, I think his name is, and everybody and all the nerdy kids. And then there's the popular kids who are like strict militant assholes. You know what I mean? And like through that book, you could really see like the fundamental, easy breakdown of how humans would treat each other, at least in the first years. My thing is, I don't think it takes more. I think it takes less. If you look at like our Iowa State code books, it takes up a library. It's insane how many rules and codes and things we have. Sure. I think it's way simpler than we're making it, but that's the hard part, right? Like, as I come to grow and find myself, the more obvious it is, the longer it's taking me to understand. You know what I mean? And I might be just getting dumber and it gets more like simpler for me or something. But like that, I think it's the same thing. You're getting dumber. No, I'm kidding. I think it's the same thing with politics is that if we engage in the current energy, there's no way that it's gonna amount to something more. It has to get less first.
No, that's a very fair point. And that's definitely a conundrum I struggle with. Like identify as a libertarian is like, there is a valid argument to that where it's like you are just kind of like playing into the system. Yep. JC, what do you think?
I don't know. I personally don't see, a realistic way forward, in which everybody's happy. Yeah. My personal opinion is that, your rights shouldn't impede on somebody else's rights. 100%. So a lot of the social issues and, human rights issues that have been going on, I think that a lot of politicians are, and others are trying to force their their religious opinion of the way that things should be on people who want to live in a more progressive place. So, I feel like there's a big fight. I feel like that's the real definition between, Democrats and Republicans, or, people who want to stay closed-minded and people who, are more open-minded, whether or not that's, because of their own values or because of their experience in life. But, especially minorities and, people who have had a hard time in life at all, they understand more that hard things happen to good people, not that poor people deserve it. and stuff like that.
That's a message we promote, no?
Right. Well, I just feel like a lot of the problems or the things that people fight about really aren't things that should be fought about. It's being kind and nice and
And if there right now we have such a focus on a national level, like when you're taxed, most of your money goes to a federal level. Like, I think if we flipped that and we brought it to like what she's saying, if we brought it to a local level, we had more emphasis on like who was mayor, who was on your city council, who governed your school board. Like, I bet you none of us in here can name a single person on the Des Moines City Council. That is adverse to like a healthy society. We
right,
should
and that's kind of why
level.
At some point, like, I disagree with like disengaging, because like I don't think we should pay it. I feel like all information is fake information at this point. Like, nobody's telling the truth. We'll never really know. It's all the story that we're being told, So
yeah,
like,
that's a problem in itself.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel like, yeah.
It's perception based for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say what's legit and what's not. There's so much like, and that's kind of just a result of like the template,
Even if it's conflicting doesn't illegitimize any issue. Like,
yeah, no,
you can
not
have
at all.
10 things that all conflict with each other that are all true, and that's something like we learned in even our relationship. Is like, she's seeing orange, I'm seeing green. Together they're really bad, but like, or like the ugly brown, you know what I mean? But like, hers isn't wrong, mine isn't wrong, but there's one color that like needs to predominantly
people see different
work.
things, or people notice
Right.
different things, and there are like different aspects to situations that aren't being considered. And I feel like we're always getting disinformation. What can you really trust?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a lot of making your own, I don't know, having values or having, your own like personal morals of like, what do you feel like, is acceptable, or like, what do you think of, this situation, not just like remembering sound bites or like, responses to things.
Yeah.
I feel like people aren't really putting a lot of thought into it about like, what if that was me, like, and
that's something I'm curious with. So right now in our society, morals and defining yourself are like top line things that we should do. But like most of the time in history, it's been more like reactive and like obvious of that, rather than like can you define yourself well enough to not get in trouble? You know what I mean? I don't know if that's possible, or do you just learn to react better to the times you fuck up? You know what I mean? Like, those are kind of like two sides of the coin. I'm curious on how this thought process will work in time, but
yeah,
I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Put out my 2 cents there. I'm just curious on that in the long term. Because that's something that's definitely switching with our populace or our current like
people
method
being
of
held
understanding.
to a higher standard.
We're trying
morally.
to adhere to a higher stand. Sorry with the quotes. Trying to adhere to a higher standard, but that is all again like you're judging off a perspective, right or wrong, or shades of rights, shades of wrongs. Who gets to define who messes up and who doesn't, and how guilty are you and how far down do you fall? I'm not defining or defending base nectar here, nothing like that. But I'm just saying, like, even as an individual who messes up on a daily basis, that's a human trait, and like that's something.
Not on the level of base nectar.
Right. You can mess up to a point where the community shouldn't support you because you're pillaging the energy,
Yeah.
you're pillaging the people, and like you're not somebody we want to boast up around us, right? That's healthy, but like on terms of like judging each other on who you're around, like this is your community, like it's not like you get to choose who you went to school with. It's the same thing as a grown-ups. Like when you're here in Iowa, these are the kids you're going to live your life with. There's nobody else coming. There's nobody going to save you. There's nobody going to make it better for you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This is what it is. And if you're just trying to make each other so good that nobody will fuck each other up or mess up anywhere around you, that's never going to happen. It's more about like, how do I accept your mess up? How do you like do some form of apology thing? And how do we move forward? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like it's the reactionary thing that I think is kind of missing from our current societal judgment. You know what I mean? Like, how do we recover together? I don't even know that answer. You know what I mean? Like that's an interesting thing not to know. You think that would be kind of obvious. You know what I mean?
Do you think morality is innate, or do you think it's learned?
I think there's pieces to both.
Okay.
I think it really depends. I think, again, we're all pieces of a puzzle. When we lived in the woods, having somebody be a sociopath that could protect you was probably pretty beneficial. You know what I mean? So like I think morality is all subjugated to the person.
But reason is what makes man different than animal.
Correct.
So, the fact that we, can, consider, is this right or wrong, or what should I do? Like,
or
what
whose
makes
feelings
us
are you
human,
affecting?
right? Is what makes us human. And I think that, honestly, I feel like everybody's capable of, caring. It's just whether or not they've ever had to before, and I feel like a lot of people, don't have experience caring for another person. Like maybe they weren't loved deeply, or they've been, had bad examples of relationships. I feel like a lot of people don't know what it's like to actively care about somebody, and then find that hard to apply to like, bigger situations where it's like, well, why should I care about that?
Sure.
Or how? What does it mean when I do? Mm-hmm. And I feel a lot of people are lost on that. It's like we just watched You People last night.
It's about a biracial couple
With Jonah
Hill. I heard that was awful.
Super funny, actually.
It's really funny.
It's really funny.
I loved it. Yeah,
But and I feel for what they went through, what they experienced. But in that light, like I'm mind blanking. What was it you just said? I'm sorry.
It's about morality. I don't know why you brought that movie up.
Yeah, no, I had something where they did it inside that movie where it like made sense in that way. Yeah, no. I can definitely see how a lot of people wouldn't like that movie. It was very uncomfortable, especially the last half of it. But they
rode the line between like people getting called out for racism and being an asshole.
And even like people who I think would be mad should want to understand how to ride that line. That's kind of like that's where we're at in this conversation even right now. Is like how do you get outside that? How do you stop being like the paradox white male? You know what I mean? Like he's a white Jewish male, and that's literally what's being like showed at him in every angle. Like how does he stop doing that and be the human that like navigates that? That doesn't like ignore that. It doesn't say I'm better than that or I'm an elite in my thoughts in this way. Like how does he humanize that? That part of it was like, oh, that's hard to cut because I feel that. I as a married man, a father in a modern time, a white male, like how do you navigate not just portraying the next version of white maleness? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it's just awareness, and like that. I didn't see the movie. That was probably like at face value, that might be something that I lacked. Is like I felt like the whole it seemed like the whole premise was kind of just like I don't know, like typical, like what you would expect.
But and I think in that form, the typicalness brought you in to care deep enough that when it started going sideways and you started understanding the nuances of like why cultures are clashing, like, and that's okay, I'll say it because this movie showed it in a way that I like believe it too. Like we are all fucking different. Yeah. None of us are the same.
100%.
Having black skin makes your experience different than me having white skin. And like that's a good thing. We need all these experiences to be able to articulate what we all need, right?
Yeah, no. So difference in culture, Yeah,
and the difference in culture really played a big effect in that role. Him coming from a Jewish house and like them trying to be their version of accepting and like understanding how like that acceptance is still an acknowledgement that the difference isn't equal. That it was more materialistic than humanistic in that sense. And then
about how it just made people aware of the difference,
all the way to the pain that the black family had felt and was feeling through their life. And like we all have somebody to blame, right? Like us as white males blame the patriarch or the proletariat and the people with all the money, you know what I mean? Like everybody has somebody to blame, and it was truly seeing their pain in the people that they felt responsible for their pain. Like it wasn't Jonah Hill's character that like made the dad ever upset at a white person, but at the same time like he was caring about his daughter in a way that like truly brought those feelings to light that like if he didn't deal with, he would be the asshole. You know what I mean? Like he had to like work his human self through to be able to like say like I hurt this way, it feels this way, I know you're not this person, I act this way because of this, please forgive me. And like through that, then now
I
they're all on
imagine it
the
would
same
only
level.
happen that way in movies.
Right.
Yeah.
But like that, I think that's a good example to like a larger scale.
No,
like,
it's great.
In my mind, that's the only way forward. I don't know how to do something like that on a large scale, but like even like through friends and stuff, like I'm to the point where it's like we're not going to be making a whole bunch of new friends. All the friends are kind of around us. So like that's a major skill that I see a lot of us lacking is like how do we compensate for the differences in a way that's like forgiving and kind, but like not pitiful of anybody.
Yeah.
Like nobody deserves to be pitied because of their difference. You know what I mean? Or like held to a lesser standard because of something different. And so in that way we have to like boost each other through our miscommunications or our anger rather than like talk behind each other's back or shit of that nature. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think so.
No, I think it comes down to open-mindedness. You know,
sure.
like I feel like the way to, you know, because like me on this show, like I definitely ride the line of like offensive and like, you know, satirical type of humor and shit. You know, I like to fucking toe that edge.
Yep.
And I feel like the way to do that is to just go in it with like hey, I'm not here to make any, you know, regard to whatever, you know, race, gender, you know, religion, etc. I'm not going in necessarily being like, I know everything about you. Like, I have my, like, you know, maybe jokes up my sleeve around that area, but I'm never going to look at someone and be like, I know everything about you. You know? I think if people would just apply that into their everyday life, it would alleviate so many of these problems.
You should watch You People, because that was the end. The dad even said, like, he's like, I read you front to back from the moment I met you. I knew you like a book. And it's like, no, you didn't. There's no, like, just like you said, there's no way that anybody could know that. There's no way you know literally almost anything about anybody. I've been with her like 11 years, and honestly, some of the stuff she still does is like, why'd you do that? And like, it could be good or bad, but like at the same time, like that's who a person is. And like,
yeah, I honestly, this is something that I've learned about myself over the last year. I totally just blanked on what I was gonna say.
What'd you learn about yourself?
I don't remember.
You learned a lot in this last year.
Yeah, I did. So I broke up with my mom when we left last year, and that's kind of what it was about. Is that I remember. I realized that I haven't really had like my own direction or you know, a sense of self or an opinion or, you know, a way that I thought things should be. So I've always been really accepting and understanding of other people just because I don't feel like necessarily my way is right, because she always made me feel like I was wrong. But like, I feel like that's a really special, I guess, different thing about me, that like, I really do think that like everybody offers up a really like good idea or a valuable idea, or it could be, you know, something better. I think that that's something that a lot of people don't do.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's well, I'm sorry to hear about your breaking up with your mother. I mean, I've been kind of having my issues with my own parents, so I can kind of relate to that for sure. Like, if anything, it's good to like, you know, step aside a little bit and kind of let yourself breathe. Right. You know. Yeah. You got to be your own person.
Take in the air without them breathing it first for a minute.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
No, and I think almost everybody I know at this point in their life has parent issues. Our parents have really gone through some shit and are really like, they're having a harder time than we are dealing with it. I really feel.
That's very true.
My mom's doing a great job. Shout out, Mom. I love you. You're killing it. But most parents I hear about, I think they're going through it.
But yeah, no,
Tinder and Facebook and Instagram, they're tearing those 50 plus crap.
But it's a new opinion to be open-minded of progressive liberal people, and I feel like that's kind of something that the movie touched on, was like, yeah, black and white people can totally love each other, and there's nothing, you know, to be like judged or said about that. And I feel like that was, you know, each of the family was doing that, like, you can't, you know, the stereotypical, like, no, but like they just wanted people to see their real love for each other, you know, regardless of what they look like. And yeah, no, I feel like that's important.
You guys see Do the Right Thing?
No.
You guys never seen that?
I'm gonna write it down though.
Oh, it's just about this kind of stuff. It's a Spike Lee movie. Well, it's like the first one that he like really broke through with. It might be his first movie ever.
I might have seen it then if it's an older one.
Yeah, it has the guy that plays Gus Fring in Breaking Bad.
Okay. No recall.
I don't know what his actor name is, but yeah, look it up. Do the Right Thing. It's like it's basically about a New York block. And like it deals with like, you know, Asians, blacks, Italians, like, and it just, the whole movie is just about like racial bickering basically. And then like there's this event that like causes a stir, and like it's a whole, it basically is just a portrait of this New York block and like all the different racial, and it goes about it in like a beautifully unbiased way. Like, it's just,
Cool.
I highly recommend it.
I dig
Do the
that.
right thing.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, Spike Lee's the man, for sure.
I've definitely seen some of his movies.
What have you seen by him?
I'd have to look up
Seth, Seth doesn't know
Malcolm
names
X.
like that.
names I don't know like that. What's that?
Malcolm X. Did you
Malcolm
guys?
X. I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
a great fucking movie.
Yeah, no, celebrity names and stuff I have like zero recall of. Or like
Yeah.
what they've been a part of. Like I can recognize them, but yeah, that part of my mind just doesn't click on ever.
Did you guys, was there any like crazy like LA films or anything that you watched? Did you catch any part of that culture?
The Bad Guys, the kids movie, The Bad Guys came out while we were there, and I get to drive down. It's an animated kids movie. You should watch it. It's good. But no, it was I used to drive down Melrose Avenue to get to work every day, so really right through like the heart of Hollywood. And,
advertising.
Right, and there were huge posters the entire time I was there, and there were just cartoon characters all over the place.
And when it switched, it was like the entire city switched decor. It went from like that cartoon Bad Guys to like Bros or whatever it was, where the two dudes were grabbing each other's butts, and everything was like butts.
Butts
everywhere. Hands on ass everywhere. And it was just like all of a sudden just
huge
switched.
on the side of buildings.
Yeah. The advertising in LA is incredible. How well it's like orchestrated.
No wonder Ben Shapiro was pissed. All these butts.
It was everywhere.
everywhere.
It was everywhere.
Red and white butts.
But yeah, no, when the movie switched, when the season switched or whatever, it was unbelievable how fast all of it, like, tone switched.
But it was cool seeing, advertisements for movies that hadn't come out yet, or, that had never heard of
brands.
before, that weren't online yet.
Like Doc Martens pushing their initial core brand launch there. Champion was pushing brand stuff there, and I know that's like just starting to take here, but like it was beautifully done there.
I really liked all the graffiti. I got to work kind of like I worked in the arts district, so I got to work by like a whole bunch of cool like entrepreneur shops, boutique shops. Worked next door to a Swiss furniture shop, and then a boutique shop that also sold kittens. So pop-up kitten boutique. Yeah. So no, people are just doing weird stuff all over the place. So
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's cool shit.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your opinion. I don't know if we've talked about this before in the podcast, like drug legalization. I don't know if you're
Legalize it all.
Okay.
Yeah, the only way to have an open conversation is not to make the person paranoid of talking about it.
Yeah.
And like people want to make good, healthy choices for themselves, even if they're radical. Right now, there is literally zero conversation. There's zero ways to find conversation. There's zero healthy habits. There's nothing established in any form of culture or society to like protect anybody. It's all self-exploration. It's like going to the moon by yourself right now, and it's literally that dangerous at times for people.
Yeah.
I think, legalize it all. Have it all pharmacied, made in America.
I think weed should have never been illegal.
No.
So,
Yeah, never.
It should be, You should be able to go to the doctor and be like, so my friend was doing this. I would really like to try it. What are your recommendations? And you have like an open and honest conversation about what that looks like and feels like and what it could do for you in the future, or not do for you in the future.
Yeah, or not receive prescriptions that you need because you tested positive for something else.
And addiction's a disease. It needs to be treated as such. People don't ever mean to. It's like playing Russian roulette. You know what I mean? Like the thrills there, we're all spinning the trigger and pulling the gun. That's what we're all playing with.
Yeah.
Some people, the bullet's in the chamber, and it's not their fault.
But
and
maybe
like, there needs to be safe ways for them to suffer through their disease, as well as help to get out. That's not biased or judgmental.
But
Yeah.
I feel like improving quality of life itself would
Huge.
keep, I feel like a ton of people,
sure.
I feel like there's a huge increase in drug use because of, how shitty everything is, in different areas of life right now.
Escapism, depression, and anxiety.
Yeah, that's what people use drugs for, is to, have some fun or to escape or, to have a good time. And, people have a hard time finding those things right now. So,
And that being said, anybody that's young or even just like actively, if you have any drug related questions, concerns, you need help, you want to talk, you like anything, like I want to help. Like that's something I always am open for. You can call me at 3 a.m. Like that's something I am always here for. I feel very called in my life to be outspoken in those ways. I constantly witness it all the time. Please, if you ever need anybody to talk to in any form of like drug counseling or anything, like we can start together and we can find the right people.
Let's do a podcast.
I would love to. Oh my God. The amount of information that I like hold inside. I like sit there and like I'll start doing a whippet or whatever, and I'd be like, so can I tell you guys a story about whippets and which part parts of these are dangerous and which parts are amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I use those times, like, I know it's corny and like a dad moment, but like, we literally don't know what we're putting in our bodies. We have no fucking clue, and we're messing with some of like the coolest, most radical, intense
or like
stuff
ketamine.
ever.
Don't swallow the drip.
Yeah.
Don't swallow the drip. It's bad for you. Spit it out.
If your liver starts hurting, you need to take some serious breaks. That is causing liver sclerosis at an active, fast rate, like to the point where it's like like if it was cancer, they'd be like, you're gonna die. Like, stop. You know, like there's like real life lessons.
Right. There are some rules that you should follow, or just like some. Yeah.
Speaking of whippets, don't do whippets out of canisters. So those. When we breathe in oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide. Oxygen is the positive, carbon dioxide is the negative, and nitrous oxide is the neutral. It is the fabric of our reality. It's literally what makes up the texture of our reality, from what we hear to what we feel to what we see, what we smell. The amount of nitrogen we breathe, and the reason we're in the same room in the same space, and the space-time is holding us together, is the nitrogen. When you affect nitrogen, obviously you affect the plane, right? One of the first pioneers of nitrogen was Winston Churchill. And he wrote trip reports blasting off on nitrogen.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
And he said you can meet God and know all the answers. The problem is when you get back, you forget it all. So, but here's my warning, and I'm going to say this because I know a lot of these kids, a lot of us watching, they're doing those little whippet canisters. Stop. Nitrogen is amazing. It is a chemical. You can't die off it. It's you can suffocate. But like fishing out is because they're in those little canisters. There is aluminum. They put about 4% nitrogen in those canisters. The rest of it needs to be taken up by other space. Most of it not oxygen or carbon dioxide. That's how they have the effect. The extra space is filled with shards of little micrometals of aluminum. Aluminum so small that it doesn't even need to go through anything. It can go straight from your lungs into your bloodstream, straight to your brain. And when you fish out, you're actually having micro seizures to full range seizures. The aluminum is building up and clotting in your brain and tearing holes along the blood arteries. So don't do the canisters. That's why they get silver at the end. If you do food grade, you need to have a filter on the end of it that you can get from an RV store. Look it up on Google, and that will make it up to like the 95 percentile and take out all the aluminums. The thing to do is to get medical grade nitrous oxide, and you can buy that. It's everywhere. That's pretty easy to get. But like, stop doing whippets. Those are literally killing you.
Be responsibly irresponsible.
Yes.
So that's our clip for the clip for the week.
Be responsibly irresponsible. 100%. Like, enjoy life, and it's all here for you, and it's going to teach you something no matter which direction you lean. You just. Like, nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to be paralyzed. Nobody wants to be blind. Like, it'd suck to be trapped in your own body.
I think science is interesting. So I like to learn about, the things that I do and how they'll affect me. And, so, I feel like not enough people do that, and I feel like especially, with the increase of bad things and the increased risk in, drug usage,
and at least
in general, I feel like, if you're gonna do a drug, know what the effects should be. There's a lot of stuff going around that we see that's not what it is being sold as. So like, be knowledgeable about like what it should look like, or
feel like,
what it should feel
or
like,
what your
or
jaw
feel
should
like,
do,
or
your eyes.
Right. Yeah. So be responsibly irresponsible.
Yeah, be informed and test your drugs. Like that would alleviate so many issues.
And so the testing is something
you can't test for one. There might be one speck of fentanyl.
And if you've seen those tests,
you can't test for fentanyl.
You can,
but then you would have just tested it.
You'd have to test your whole bag,
right?
I see. Like it's separate.
Unless there's multiple drops in there. If there's only one piece of fentanyl, which could kill you, you'd have to literally hit that piece on the test. Otherwise, it will test positive. I've seen many bags test positive that were definitely fentanyl laced. Also, having out loud conversations about this will start forming policy or politics or whatever current paradigm, right? Because it's so underground and nobody's talking about it. There's no like political pressure or societal pressure. But our drug tests are absolutely dog shit. They're like shades of brown to blue to green. I'm blue-green colorblind. Like when I do a drug test, I have no fucking chemical idea what chemical I'm looking at. They're all like, it's like looking at an eyeball, and I'm supposed to tell this is MDMA from that.
You want to know something that I learned recently that really bothered me? Honestly, I was doing research on the Good Samaritan law in Iowa. Okay, so if you call 911 when one of your friends is overdosing, okay, and they don't end up dying, then you can be charged for it. It's only if they like die, then you're covered by the Good Samaritan law. So isn't that fucked up that like if you call 911, you gotta like you might go to jail if your friend doesn't die.
Or like you gotta run before the cops get there.
Yeah, no, it's really and so honestly, I feel like maybe activism is kind of in my future, like awareness. of, I don't know.
We're definitely going to incorporate, so that's part of, like, leading all the way back, what we've learned to do, what we're going to do actively is be the things we want to be. So that's something, like, when I throw a show, like, I don't just want, like, dance safe there. Like, I want a conversation table. You know what I mean? I want, like, pieces. She's going to be making propaganda in the near future that we can start sharing and, like, having these conversations. And it's not to dictate or, like, to posterize or, like, idealize anything. It is literally just to have a spot to conversate. I'd never had anybody to ever talk to. Most of what I've learned about drugs was from self-exploration or somebody telling me on the sly. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if you, like, could have a community where this questions could be asked. That to me as a cosmonaut sounds wonderful, and I know a lot of other people along the way would join in. I think.
Right. Yeah. Do it safely.
Fun.
Yeah. No, there's an increase, so responsibly deal with
and fuck fentanyl.
Right, and inform, people that we love.
So I should get rid of that sponsor is what you're telling me.
Fentanyl? Yeah. No fentanyl. No, that's my least favorite thing I've ever encountered ever. The house I first moved into, they had 2 fentanyl overdoses before I could move out with the family or whatever. And like, it's so serious, so quick. There's like no warning. There's like nothing your body does to show anything. It's like as sudden as a heart attack, like you're out. And you could be like chilling, meditating, and all of a sudden your body just turns off. Like there's no like slow come down. It's not like heroin where they're like bottoming out. Like you're like, oh, I think he's dead. He's not breathing. How long has he not been breathing? Like, whoa. Like, and that's what it is. That's why people die on it. It's because you don't even know that it's happening to them. They're not screaming in pain. Nothing's like turning off in their minds. Like they are just chill. They feel calm, and then they die.
Right. No reaction time.
Yeah. So what would you say is your most like positive drug experience? You talking about all these negatives?
Oh yeah, no, I love drugs. I mean, in like a healthy way, like around friends and stuff. I mean, like for me, it's not so much about the chemical. Like the chemical is great, and I could tell you which one I was on during which experience. But it's about the experience that I choose to engage in the chemical with, right? So if I go to this place with that one with these friends, or this place with that one with this, or I chill in my basement with these homies and we make this, like that. It's more about what we're using it for. You know what I mean? Like if my friends are coming over, we're going to make music and we want to make wub music, a little K and getting weird and maybe some nitrous oxide to like chill. You know what I mean? Like that's the experience. But those aren't my favorite drugs. Not for every situation. You know what I mean? I don't want to walk down my street on ketamine. You know what I mean? Like that's where I smoke marijuana. You know what I mean? Like time and place type of thing. And honestly, I don't know if it was COVID. I don't know if it was what we were doing. I got to a really depressed and anxious and like, I don't even call it low. It's like self-exploding part of my life. And like where I'm at now with like, I wouldn't even call it sobriety, but like more being sober, you know what I mean? And doing things that like
sober-ish.
Right. And doing things that don't trigger my mind to get fucked up. You know what I mean? In like a cool way or something. You know what I mean? Like instead like hanging out with a fam or like doing different activities like that has put me in a more constructive and in a long-term healthier, happier place in like the ways that matter to me, not just like outside appearance. Like I feel like I'm progressing in being the most human I've ever been because I'm not toying around playing with reality in ways that are asatirical or don't really matter to my experience or expression. I feel like I used a lot of time, even if it was in self-exploration, in enjoyment and excitement and comfort, trying to just like push and see and get really esoteric in like my beliefs and like what ifs and can I and what is choice. And the chemicals definitely helped lead to like the heights of that. But as a human that wants to like be happy and proud and self-sustaining, like it sometimes pushing those limits isn't where it's at long term for like the beingness of you. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. I'm still working that down from where I'm at, but what I'm trying to say long term short, I'm much happier and healthier doing less, and I don't even equate it to that. I'm doing less because I'm happier and healthier. Boom, that's where it's at.
Yeah, so I will say that part of the reason, like I definitely go deep in some areas, but in other areas I don't dabble at all. And I would say that, just me as a person,
sure.
JC, I like being myself. I like myself. I like the things that I think about. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not dealing with anything secretively. Like there's nothing, I don't have anything that I want to escape or that I want to, internally like get a different perspective on, or, I don't need to get away from myself like that. So the types of chemicals, that separate yourself from your understanding of yourself. I feel like people, and take this, this is just not for everybody, but I would say, if you enjoy, drugs that take you away from yourself, maybe you need to work on yourself a little bit, like it might be, maybe you should, I don't know, become a person that you enjoy being more, or spend more time on, developing that part of yourself,
Not to say you don't deserve a weekend on Lucy.
Right.
But
yeah, because I definitely enjoy it, but it should be about having extra fun on top of being you, not to like feel like you're a different, more fun person.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Because like I feel like sometimes being on a substance will make me less of the person that I am. Like and then like I'm not the same person to the people that I talk to or that I meet, or I'm kind of it
more
makes
about
me
self-enjoyment rather than like a shared experience most of the time.
Right. Yeah. No. So I say like examine the reasons why you do what you do,
or the timing, the structure. Yeah, you got to enjoy life, especially at the times that it gives it to you. You know what I mean? But that literally can't be all the time, or you know what I mean? Or like anytime you are enjoying yourself, it doesn't need to be that way.
Right. Being a professional drug doer, is it affects your entire life, so like you've got to be aware of the way that you do drugs, how it affects your life and the people around you, and what your goals are, and if that's what you want to do, and if it is, go for it. But yeah,
some self-awareness if you're because like the definition of like an addiction or something bad is it negatively affecting your life. So like you need to be able to have that open-minded perspective, be like, oh hey, are there areas where this is affecting things? I would say like just try to like not do it for a week. That'd be like the first place to start. Like if you have something that like you're like, oh, is this going too far in a certain direction, just take a week off, and like if that's really hard, then maybe that's a thing to explore
for sure. Well, and all drugs are dealing with some negative, right? And so like it's like what they call it, a crutch. So you gotta be it's not even that you can't do something that's negatively or not a crutch for you. Like we all have to have a crutch of some sort, right? Sure. But like just make sure you're, like you're saying, aware of the negatives, and that you're trading them off in a conscious choice form, rather than being like, this is how life is, or poor me, this is the way it has to be to make it through it.
Value your own well-being.
Right. Choose it. I for a long time didn't understand how important choice was, and it is an active conversation. I really thought that it was more something that happened at certain times, and most of it was something you're like observing. The observer was the word I was taught. You like observe reality. I no longer prescribe to that belief. I think, you are a static state observer, but I think your choice literally dictates the reality you perceive, and therefore the reality you like exhale, right? And so, I think anything you do inside of choice leaves for the chance of unintended consequences, which then plays into irony, and when it's on that side of the ironic coin, will never be in your favor. That side of the ironic coin is always a bitch. And so letting go of your choice to watch irony play out, in my experience, is not a happy endeavor. Making choice to enable irony to fulfill your dreams is much more work, but much more fulfilling, and direct to like like you have to like root yourself in your pain to be able to like run through that much consistently, if that makes sense.
You gotta set goals. You gotta have an eye on what you want, or you gotta like set goals and work towards it. You can't just like imagine that like things are gonna be happen.
What you want is you
happen, and right. You need to like be actively like, if you're choosing to like go out and party tonight, like that's cool, but like
for sure,
you also have to like be choosy to like work on yourself and be, at home and, doing the right things for yourself also.
Or after 3 days going out in a row, you then have the self-recognition to be like, why am I partying 3 nights in a row? I probably should fucking sleep. What is happening, psyche? You know what I mean? Give yourself 2 nights of sleep and be like, okay, why did I do that? Like, that's how you healthy do it. It's not that you went out and binge that you should, like, erode your self-confidence over. It's that then you understand what you did to yourself and why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that doesn't change the past. It might not even change the fucking future in the near future, but that sense of understanding allows you to start shifting the paradigm that you're experiencing. And through that self-reflection, if there was things you didn't like, noting them to yourself, or even better, saying them out loud to the universe, like, I didn't like that part of it, I wish I didn't do that, will change the next rhythm of that pattern. In my experience, that's choice. It's not that you get to be like, I want my whole life different now. Like, that would never happen. None of us can afford to do that. But we could be like, I want this little bit different. I need to start taking notes on what I want when I'm feeling that way, so I know at the other end what to give myself. And then you take notes on that end, and then you know what you know what I mean. It's like this building cycle that you have to, like, work your way through. But that's how life uses pain to teach you. Yeah. That's what that is. That's the guiding force. You know what I mean? Sometimes life gives you everything to see how you'll handle it, but most of the time it's giving you just what you need to see what you'll do with it.
Yeah, little increments. That's
little increments. You got to work for.
Exactly. That's how you go about everything. Guys, it's fucking great to have you back in town and come back on the pod. It's such great. It's baffling almost to see you guys back. I thought you guys were gone forever. I was so sad.
Yeah, we did too, honestly. But it feels so good that we can come back and then we're back. It feels, I don't know. So along with, like, breaking up with my mom, I got to go live somewhere else and, like, not be tied down by my understandings of being held down where I am. But so, it feels good to come back and know that there are tons of people who still care and, like, want me to be here. And, it feels more like a choice that we're here now. So,
oh, yeah. That's awesome. Where can people find you guys, your stuff, and what you're doing?
Facebook is where I'm at. Yeah, I haven't really moved on to Instagram yet because I don't really like it.
Okay. I like Instagram.
Yeah.
I have new music out. I have 2 new songs that are pretty trippy.
And these are the ones that you produce yourself?
Yeah.
Awesome,
I've learned to make music.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So I got 2 up right now, and I'm coming out with a 3rd probably this month. It's like an Alan Watts
surprise
one. Yeah. That was in a weird spot. No, it was a good one. But pretty weird bassy music. Happy SNAG. If you search me on, like, SoundCloud or Audius or Spotify, any music service, I think I'm on now.
Oh yeah. So. JC, what's your business again?
So we're still House of Leopold, so still watch for that on like event images and stuff like that. But yeah, this year JC makes stuff. Watch out for that.
Oh yeah.
I've invested a whole bunch in other people, and it's time to do something for myself. So watch out for that.
Yeah. Well, don't stop investing in the couch towers.
No. I'll be back for sure.
Guys, I fucking love having you on. It's a great time. Hell yeah, high fives. We usually do handshakes, but we do high fives with the...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the vibe. That's the vibe. Yeah. Hell yeah. Guys, the McAlstars podcast, you can find us at McAlstars.com at our website. We also have a Patreon where we have extra exclusive content where we talk about other shit. And,
risque.
Risque. Yeah.
VIP
I mean, this is already pretty risque, but a little bit more.
This is my normal life. I dig deep.
After hours.
Violent criminal. But yeah, we're here every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. That's pretty great vibing to you guys. Have a good night.
Booyah.
Peace.